Greetings. Today I was looking at Deuteronomy 23:7 in the Ge'ez translation of the Bible, and I noticed something in the text which made me feel inspired to make a quick video on the verse and on a key term therein. And as I've done with other videos on the Ge'ez translation of a particular verse, in this video I'm going to go through each word to explain the structure of the entire verse. Now, I realize that some might find that sort of breakdown tedious, but I do this so that interested viewers can understand the verse for themselves, right? I hope they'll understand every element in the verse, because you see, today there are a lot of great resources online for biblical Hebrew or for Quranic Arabic. You have these websites which will explain every single word and what kind of word it is and how the verbs are conjugated. All that stuff is great, but to my knowledge, there's nothing like that yet which exists for the Ge'ez translation of the Bible. And so, but, honestly, if someone knows of a site like that for the Ge'ez translation of the Bible, please let me know about it, as currently I'm under the honest and sincere impression that nothing like that exists online. But as I was saying, that's why I go through the process of explaining the structure of a verse when I'm looking at the Ge'ez text, as I think it provides a helpful resource for those who are interested in that sort of thing, right? And it enables a person not familiar with Ge'ez to become familiar with the entire verse that we're looking at, right? Now, I'm going to try to move through this breakdown, the breakdown of this verse, fairly quickly, as I want to get to one particular noun. I want to get to the precise word which made me want to make this video. And so I'll try to race through everything before and after that. Also, I realize that the spacing on your screen might look a little awkward, but I spaced the text that way so I could line up a couple of similarly structured parts of the verse, and that'll become clear in a bit. So with that, if we can jump right in, the first word is w'itasqorro. The first letter of that first word, which I marked in red, is wa. That's the standard conjunction in Semitic languages, meaning and, right? And then the second letter of that word is a sort of negation, right? It's essentially the Ge'ez equivalent of the aleph with an E vocalization. And I don't mean like the letter E, I mean like the letter I, a long I, E. The verb by itself would be telling you to do something, but that prefix negates that verb, telling you to not perform the action of the verb. And then the rest of the word is, the verb itself, and it means to loathe or to detest something, to feel disdain for something, to find it repugnant. But as I noted, that verb has a Ge'ez negation prefix to it, so it's telling you to not do that, right? So it's saying, and do not have disdain for something. Oh, and by the way, I should also mention that this is a bit of a rare verb form, as it's apparently a verb with a quadriliteral root, right? Which is to say the root has 4 letters. You see, across the Semitic languages, whether it be Ge'ez, Aramaic, Hebrew, Arabic, most verbs, almost all verbs, have 3-lettered roots, right? But this verb, this verb's root apparently has 4 letters. Now, Leslau actually discusses this in his dictionary of Ge'ez, and he argues that it actually has a triliteral root, but he mentions that there are other serious scholars who understand it as quadriliteral, and while I myself am a mere amateur student, I nonetheless would say that I think it's clearly quadriliteral, as otherwise I would really struggle to explain the precise verb that we're looking at, the precise form of the verb in this case, in this verse. But whatever the case, the verb here means and do not detest, right? That's what that first word means with its prefixes, with the conjunction and then the negation. It says, do not detest, do not abominate, do not loathe, do not have disdain for something. And what that thing is, to determine what that thing is, we can now jump to the second word, which gives us the object of the verb, right? And the second word is l'iduméyawi. This word begins with an L prefix. This is a common prefix across the Semitic languages, and here it's used to set up the object of the verb. And that object, that word, is the word for Edomite or Idumean. And by the way, the last letter is a suffix, which gives the noun a sort of adjectival form. So the first 2 words, w'itasqorro l'iduméyawi, means and do not loathe an Edomite. And then we come to the third word, isma, which is a causal conjunction, which is to say it sets up what follows as the explanation of what precedes it, right? So it's like saying as, or for, or because, right? And the next word after that causal conjunction is ichuka, which is the word for brother with the second person singular possessive suffix. In short, this means your brother. And after that is wi'itu, which is the third person singular pronoun, like the English he or the Arabic or Hebrew who, right? So the top line roughly translates to, and do not loathe an Edomite as he is your brother. And now we can turn to the second line, which will have the word that inspired this video. The first word on the second line is the same word as the first word on the first line, waitaskorro. But on the second line, the object of the verb is different, legibitsawi, which means to an Egyptian, right? Gibitz means Egypt, but this has that previously mentioned adjectival suffix, so gibitsawi means Egyptian, right? So the first two words on the second line are saying do not loathe an Egyptian, right? And then the next word is again the causal conjunction that we just discussed, isma. At this point, I think you can see why I organized the text in this way. It might have looked a little awkward at first, but now I think it's clear that the first three words on the first line have the exact same structure as the first three words on the second line, with the only difference being the precise noun serving as the object of the verb. But in either case, you're being told to not hold a certain kind of person in disdain, and then it gives the reason after that. And it is now that we turn to the word which made me want to make this video, Falasha, which means an alien or a stranger or foreigner or exile. The Amharic word Falasha actually descends from this Ge'ez word. And as you already know, the Ethiopian Jews, many of them who have gone to the modern state of Israel, are known by that Amharic word, Falasha, which today many reject, or many also advise against using it because it's considered derogatory. But it's interesting, therefore, that the Ge'ez ancestor of that word appears in the Ge'ez translation of Deuteronomy 23:7. And that's why I put in the title and the screen tile of this video, you were Falasha in Egypt. And by the way, I checked an Amharic translation of the verse, and the word Falasha does not appear there. Perhaps there's a good reason for why it was not used, or perhaps the translator just missed the opportunity to use it. I don't know. But just for the record, me personally, I have no familiarity with Amharic whatsoever. I have not even begun to try to learn it. So if there's a good reason to not use the word there, I wouldn't know what that is, as I'm ignorant of the language, and I'm all the more ignorant of its more subtle nuances. But anyway, closing this video out, the next word is konka, which is the verb to be in the second person singular perfect tense. And I highlighted the suffix of the verb which captures that this is in the second person singular. Now, perhaps I might confuse some by using the same color as the possessive suffix that was on a word in the first line. They're certainly related, but they're being used differently, right? So this verb here, this is like the Arabic kunta or the Hebrew hayita. You see the ka suffix on the ge'iz konka corresponds to the ta suffix on the Arabic kunta or the Hebrew hayita. And, in all three cases, the verb means you were, right? It's the verb to be in the perfect tense, essentially the equivalent of the past tense, right? And it has a suffix which makes clear that it's, second person singular, you. And then the last two words are on the third line, b'witse Midromu, with the standard Semitic be preposition, meaning in, prefixed to a word which means midst, and then the word for land with the third person plural possessive suffix. So this means in the midst of their land. So the entire text translates to, and do not loathe an Edomite as he is your brother, and do not loathe an Egyptian as you were an alien in their land. But like I said, I just wanted to make this quick video to point out the use of the word Falasha, for foreigner or alien, and note that it's the Ge'ez ancestor of the Amharic word Falasha, which is now pretty firmly part of the English language as well. So as is alluded to in the title and the screen tile of this video, we might think of this Ge'ez translation of Deuteronomy 23:7 as saying you were Falasha in Egypt, right? Now, Admittedly, different people might take that with differing levels of seriousness, and I, of course, am not telling you to build too much on that. I'm merely noting an interesting linguistic phenomenon which I thought others might find interesting or perhaps even ironic in some contexts. But whatever the case, I'm going to close this video here. As always, any comments or questions or even criticisms or objections are welcome here. I don't censor anyone here, so feel free to share your thoughts, whether positive or negative. And as always, God bless.